Welcome back to the show. Today we have Sandra Possing on, and she is a speaker, coach, digital nomad, and lifestyle entrepreneur based in the San Francisco Bay Area and has coached hundreds of clients to new levels of success and happiness and been a featured speaker at tech companies, nonprofits, and corporate events. So welcome to the show, Sandra. I am so happy to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super pumped to be here to kick off the new year as well.
Yay! And don't forget, for our audience, if you haven't downloaded the Money Mapper yet, it's at the link at the bottom of the show notes, and it's a plug and play worksheet that will help you discover financial independence as a business owner. So, Sandra, let's jump right in and talk about your business, where it is right now, what it looks like as a coach or a life coach, and how you define that.
Man, I guess I can start out by saying that just I freaking love what I do so much. And while I have had many a fight with my business and wanted to burn it to the ground multiple times, I ultimately love it so much, and I'm just so grateful for that. That's part of why I call myself a lifestyle entrepreneur, because I really prioritize from the beginning building my business around my lifestyle and not my trying to squeeze life in between the business, as a lot of kind of the old school entrepreneurial bro marketing thinking would
Yes.
have us believe. So, long story short, I've been doing this for, I think we're coming up on 12 years now. Personal development company. I do one-on-one coaching and speaking and all the other things you said in my bio as well. But I'm at a place where I really just want to serve more people. I want to expand my reach. I've been doing mostly one-on-one coaching and dabbling in the other things over the years. And right now I'm really excited to, be more visible, serve more people. I've got a membership growing now that I want to be able to scale, and online programs and that stuff. So I'm just excited to be in a place where I can take the kind of like, one-on-one life and turn it into more of a one-to-many, which I've dabbled in before, but I'm excited to kind of step up to that next level because
That's
it's
funny
too
that you
fun.
say that. Yeah, it's funny you say that because it's like I'm at the same point. I just launched my course where it's like I've been teaching people on this referral basis coaching for many, many years now. About, how to leave a freelance lifestyle. I mean, how to lead a freelance lifestyle, leave corporate, et cetera. And now I just built it into a course with a framework and everything. And I'm trying to reach more people. So I am in like the same spot you are. Why did you opt to go with a community? Because that is something that I'm a little like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't think I could build a community. So why did you decide to go in that direction?
I really believe that community is kind of where things are headed. I'm such a personal development junkie in a coaching world, devotee. So I kind of believe in all the things. I think all of the, whether it's one-on-one or um, DIY courses or group programs that have interactive elements or, community only things or hybrid or all the things, I think they each have their place. I think both online and in real life, I've been realizing just how incredibly crucial the community aspect is,
Mm,
I think, to all of us, and just human nature, and watching where people, I think, for like, let's say you're taking an online course and you're going to DIY it. And I've bought many courses and
mm,
finished 20% of them and left them or
right.
tried to go back in and stuff. And there's just amazing stats out there. I'm working with some mentors right now who are really big in the membership space. And it's amazing the stats they share with us in terms of the level to which students will implement if they're in a community versus if they're
Mm,
studying on their own. And then just the collaboration and the magic that can happen when you have a community of like-minded people who are working towards some sort of a common goal. And I just notice it myself, I'm in multiple different communities right now, and I know my brain learns so much better if I learn through examples. So I can study the content and that's great. But when I watch, let's say, a bunch of other entrepreneurs or a bunch of other content creators or whatever it might be, also doing their version of the content and sharing their homework and their wins, it's just like I get so many more little sparks and ideas.
mm,
And I think we just, we need each other. We're in a weird place in the world on so many different levels, and post-COVID and all of that, it's like we need each other. And I think the more that we can ask for help and lean in and inspire each other and, like, especially as women, just lift each other up instead of trying to climb on top of each other or compete and
mhm.
compare. I just think that we need that in the collective right now. So I love both being a part of communities and also creating and leading them.
Oh, I agree with that. I think when I do the group cohorts, I love the magic that happens. There's just something about getting everyone together who's, like you said, like-minded or maybe they're all struggling with something similar. One person's struggling and another person can help the other out. There's just something so powerful about that. And I leave it feeling uplifted, even though I'm the one guiding it. There's sometimes times when someone will come in with an idea that I hadn't thought of. And I'm like, yes, that's brilliant. And it's just there's something magic about it that I love it. So I do see
Absolutely.
where you're coming from. I'm still scared to do the community, but I get where like an official, I guess, official community still scares me a little bit. I saw on your website that you wrote you have a business that is an authentic expression of who you are, gives you the freedom to travel the world and live an unconventional and extraordinary life. You and your husband are digital nomads and you regularly travel around the world, prioritizing adventure, connection, and joy. And that to me is really the epitome of starting your own business and having a lifestyle business, right? So, how do you manage that business aspect and your personal life at the same time? Do you think you've achieved that balance? And if so, how?
I would say yes, I've achieved the balance in different ways and on smaller scales. And my goal is always kind of to scale that up and to, scale reach, scale revenue, and do all those things. But the nice thing about what I did from very early on in my business was I made it non-negotiable to have freedom, and I made it non-negotiable to have my business be an expression of who I am. So it was like authenticity and freedom are two of my top core values. My life purpose is very aligned with those. And I mean, even to the point where I prioritize those over growth, over revenue. So if anything, my business probably grew much slower than it could have had I been willing to just like grind and sacrifice and stuff. But I was just like, you know what, I'm prioritizing adventure and fun and freedom. And when my husband and I got together, we both realized early on, like neither one of us were ever going to be the 9 to 5, 2 weeks of vacation, grind kind of people. We're like, we both love play. We love adventure. And so we're just like, we're just going to have to figure it out. And some of it might be kind of bumpy, and that's okay. And so in doing that, I think part of what's been really helpful is having the kinds of conversations and communication relationship with him where we are constantly like designing and redesigning our relationship and our lifestyle. He's been very supportive of my business. And I've also had to step up and be like, let's say when we're out traveling and digital nomading, sometimes I have to miss out on certain adventure-y, travel-y things because I do actually need to work while I'm on the
Mm.
road because that's part of the lifestyle too. But then he's been really supportive in terms of taking on other tasks while I'm doing that, for example. But just, yeah, having that as a guidepost from day one has been helpful. And then I know for me, part of what makes it work is I'm basically like allergic to doing I'm allergic to doing things for the sake of doing them because that's what I think I should do, or that's just what people do. Like when we talk about living an unconventional life, my whole thing is like my life on my terms, and I will always want to support my clients living their lives, their businesses, their work, whatever, on their terms, their relationships on their terms. And so it's always about finding ways to do the things that I want to do in the way that I want to do them, hopefully that are still effective and strategic,
Mhm.
but being willing to kind of test things out and adjust and course correct. So like when it comes to business strategies and things, I experiment a lot, I try things, but I will never just like commit to a strategy and keep it going forever if I find it excruciatingly boring or if it feels out of integrity. So part of my balance in terms of lifestyle and work is really like leaning toward the things that light me up and the things that I find to be fun and the things that feel authentic. So it's like authenticity and alignment are always driving everything. And part of what helps me kind of balance the traveling with the working with the lifestyle and all that is like do more of what is fun and what lights me up and what is exciting and what is aligned with
Mm.
my passions and my authenticity, and less of the stuff that is just boring for me, because then I have so much more energy. When I do things that I feel like I should do or that I find boring, it drains me so fast. I'm a huge introvert, huge empath, huge HSP. So I'm like, I need to protect my energy and I need to energize and turn up the dial on the things that light me up.
Oh, I love all of that. I love all of that. If only more people could really take that time to emphasize what lights me up, what makes me authentic, what makes me me, and then spend that time and, like you said, build that business around that. That is really, really cool. So your husband, I think from my research, he's a fitness trainer. Am I right? Or fitness?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we met back in the fitness world like a decade ago, and then he's gone through some different iterations. He teaches CrossFit classes, he does online health coaching, and hosts workshops and retreats and things like that.
So how can he do that when traveling? Because I mean, your business, you can pick up and go, you can be virtual, but how does he do? It's not a podcast about him, but I am curious when you're
Yeah.
out there on the road, how does that work?
Yeah, so when we're traveling, he does none of the fitness stuff. He only does his remote health coaching.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'm the one working full time. And then when we're like here, we've, during COVID, we kind of settled down in a little house for the last 3 years, and we'll just go travel for like a month at a time or a couple weeks at a
Ah,
time. So in between, he'll be working at gyms and doing those things in
okay.
person too.
I was actually going to ask next, like, how often do you travel now? Is it like constant? Are you in an RV, et cetera? So no, you have a home base now and you're traveling out and about. Yeah. All
Yeah, for
right.
me,
Very
part of
cool.
the definition of being a digital nomad is having the option to travel anytime we want to. It doesn't mean being like gypsies and being on the road at all times. It's,
For some people, it
sometimes
does.
yeah,
Some,
exactly. For me, it's just the option to do it in the way we want to do it. So it's like if we buy a house, we might live in it 90% of the time and travel 10%, but it's knowing that we could flip-flop that and travel for 90 if we wanted to.
yeah. Yep. All right. So, what do you think are some effective time management techniques that you can share with your fellow women entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so I kind of think of time management in two different buckets. I think of it in time management and then energy management. Some of my favorite time management ones are like, and I'm like a systems junkie. I love to keep things super organized. I get on such a high after like simplifying and streamlining, and I try to automate the heck out of everything. Anything that I'm going to be doing multiple times, I look for ways to automate it. So like I'm not going to type the same email 100 times. I use a lot of templates and different workflows and things like that in my systems. I love software. I love apps. I love programs. I love anything that will like systematize things. I'm also a big fan of batching.
Mm.
We are so in the modern world distracted, and so many people think that multitasking is a great talent to have and they put it on their resume, and it actually just makes us terrible at a lot of things at once. So I
It's like
think the
just
art,
distraction. I mean, multitasking. Yeah,
yeah.
I actually saw, not to interrupt, but we watched this, my husband and I, this like docu-series years ago. It was pre-COVID, I'm sure. And they had this guy on, it was called Brain Games, and he swore he was the best multitasker in the world. And they had like, he'd applied and everything. And so they actually put him to the test. They had him driving a car on a track. He had to talk on the phone at the same time and like drink coffee or something and drive the car at a certain speed, and he couldn't do all of it. And it just showed that like multitasking is an illusion. And I should probably try to find more information about this, but I agree with you. Like multitasking, it's not really helping you get the work done faster. It's actually just distracting you from doing really quality work or something like that.
And I think it's tempting. It's kind of seductive. We get, even when one page is loading, I'm so
Oh,
tempted to open up another tab and start working on the next thing. But I've had to acknowledge that by the time I get back to the first tab, it takes me a second to remember what I was doing and then refine my train of thought. So I think the art of focus is like a basically superpower in this day and age. If you can actually focus on one thing at a time long enough to finish it before moving on to the next task, like you're way ahead of the game right there.
yes.
So that's why I love, there's a million things you want to do in a day. So just batching them, like doing, not checking an email every time a notification pops up on your phone. I have basically all my notifications off except for text messages that might be time sensitive. I sit down, I do all my email at once. I'm an inbox email or inbox zero person.
Mm,
So anything that comes in like is either important, or it gets deleted, or it gets unsubscribed, or it gets auto filtered into a Gmail folder, whatever it is. I try to systematize everything so it's streamlined. So I'm batching tasks. I'm doing like with like. I'm also huge on, for those of us who are sensitive like me to our environment, I like to keep a really clean and tidy space. Like I'll clean the kitchen before I sit down to work because it helps my brain feel calm. Then I feel
mm,
like at peace and inspired. And then I'm excited to do work. If I see chaos around me, I'm like, ah. So just
hmm.
little things like that I find really helpful. Little things like I've got my little timer here that if I need to kind of stay on task, I'll set a timer just to help myself not to get distracted. But what I find actually way more interesting than time management and all the techniques and apps and things, and even, I love habit, all the habit experts like the Atomic Habits book
Oh,
and
I
those
love
types of
him.
things. And
James
those things,
Clear. Oh my
all
God,
those
love
things
him.
can be so helpful. What I find to be like the more effective kind of superpower though, is if you focus on energy management instead of time management, because I'm like, you can have all the time management techniques and apps in the world, but if you are so depleted and burnt out and low energy, you're not going to get much done anyway. Whereas like you can have zero time management techniques, but if you have so much great energy, you're going to blast through a lot of stuff anyway. So I often help my clients prioritize just like energy hygiene, which, comes
Mm.
Comes down to some basic self-care stuff like, are you getting enough sleep? Are you drinking enough water? Are you remembering to eat food? Are you eating food that's real food? Taking a walk around the block, moving your body, breathing fresh air, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But then also to me, the real hack is like, are you doing enough things that actually light you up and make you feel excited? So many of the
Mm.
clients I work with have grown up in this paradigm of like following the shoulds and what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to look? What am I supposed to, who am I supposed to be? And their life is so full of like living from the outside in that they just feel low energy because they're just trying to keep up. Whereas like when you look from the inside out and you look for like what gets me, what do I want to do today? You know, I have clients who are like amazing, high achieving, successful professionals, but they haven't touched a hobby or a passion for years
Mm.
and they're just so stressed and overwhelmed with work. And then we get them to spend like 30 minutes painting on the weekend, which they haven't done in 20 years. And suddenly it's like they tap into this unlimited new battery of energy that they had forgotten about.
Mm. It is so true. I noticed like doing the tasks that light me up, at least even in my business, not even as a hobby, makes me want to go back to it the next day, which helps my business grow because I'm always tapping into that. Oh, okay, I got to do that. And I'm so excited about this. And I have another idea for this and et cetera, et cetera. And it really does just help create this momentum. And I can see how that would help if you're not spending time with your hobbies either. And talking about like that chaos and keeping things clean. Like if I don't get out and walk my dog in the beginning of the day, like when everyone's still in bed and sleeping, I just feel off. Like that just somehow like kickstarts my day. And it's not the same as like messy dusk and chaos and all that, but there's something about it that's like been a ritual now since I had a dog when I was like in elementary school. I was walking that dog early in the morning. So I think it's just like a habit over years and years and years. And it's true. I just love to move my body in the beginning of the day. And that creates something that just helps me with my energy management and helps me like, and I realized that like my zone of genius is in the morning. Like I get big tasks done in the morning because then I feel so good. Because I used to wait. I'd be like, oh, I'll wait till I'm done with all these like little things I need to do. And I'll get to that big thing at like 2 or 3 p.m. But by then my energy's gone and I hate it and I resent it. And it's not a good look. So I totally feel you on all that energy management. So what do you think that the biggest advice you could give to women entrepreneurs who are struggling with that work-life balance or energy management or time management issue?
The thing that comes to mind first is to basically pause and step back and be willing to get brutally honest with ourselves. Because I think we get really caught up in this, like, again, all the should energy and the supposed to and I know for me as an entrepreneur and especially as a woman, I do not do well under the feeling of pressure and
Mm,
tension. I know some people thrive on it and they're like, I can only do well if I'm super pressured or whatever. But I think in general, just the ability to like pause and feel into what do I actually need to do today? And what are my actual priorities? Like, what do I actually care about? What do I really want? Versus like, oh, gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this. And it's so easy to come from this place of should and pressure and scarcity and
mhm,
expectation. Whereas if we really pause and step back and are honest with ourselves, we might look at our list of 100 things and be like, I don't actually have to do all 100 of these things today. And which ones really matter? Which ones actually move the needle in my business, or which ones are important to me because they're aligned with my goals and my values and my dreams. And so much of this stuff just comes from a place of shoulda. So I think if we can get honest, I did an
mm.
interview one time with a gal who was really successful and really organized. And I remember I asked her, like, I'm like, how do you decide? How do you prioritize? How do you do task management? And I expected her to have some like robust, amazing task management system. And she was like, I sit down in front of my desk, I close my eyes, I put my hand on my heart, and I ask myself, what is the most important thing for me to do right now? And she said, I
Ah,
open my eyes and I do that thing and then I do it again. I'm like, what? And I love that.
ah,
It's like ultimately, if we pause, we do know and we can guide
yeah.
ourselves that way. It's all the noise coming from the outside that I think makes us feel all like distracted and chaotic and
Oh,
pressured.
oh, I agree. I mean, I again, it's a new year, so I'm trying new habits, but I've been sitting down every morning and doing like, I don't know if is it the manifestation technique or is it like, it's just like envisioning like what you see your day and your future looking like. And it just fires me up. It's only been 3 days of it. but I hope to continue doing it because it helps me. I sit down and I say, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on, and this is what I'm going to do right away. And there are moments where I'm just sitting there going, oh my gosh, I have so much other stuff to do though. I have so much other stuff. Oh my gosh, I have to get to that other stuff. And I look at this list and I'm like, no, but I really want to do this. So I'm going to do this first. So I agree with that. So it's similar to putting your hand on the heart a little bit. Um, so you mentioned off air, you were talking a lot about hiring and how that has shifted for you so many times over the years. What are some mistakes or challenges you've had when hiring?
So man, I've just come at it from a place of a lot of experimentation, which I'm actually very okay with. I think so much of what I've done in the past was I just looked at what mentors and people I trusted were doing and sort of asked them, I'm like, who should I hire for this? And they were like, hire my person. She's great. I'm like, okay. So I just kind of I didn't come at a lot of it very strategically. I just kind of went with what made sense in the moment. So I don't look back on any of that with regret, or see it as huge mistakes. But I would say that I've learned a lot from in terms of like when is a good time to hire, how to go about doing it, and what are the things that actually feel more important than others. I've gone from, I'd say for in my last 12 years, I've been a solopreneur doing everything on my own a lot of the time. And then I've had up to, I think the most I had was like a team of 6 or something at one time. Most of the time I end up just having one or two, all contractors, no full-time anyone. But I would say the thing that has felt most consistent is the idea of having somebody who's really good at doing the thing that you don't want to
Mm,
do or that you're not good at. And that's been my takeaway over and over. The times that I've been really grateful I hired somebody was when I was like, oh, thank God, I would not want to be doing like the first thing I ever did was hire a bookkeeper and an accountant because I was
mm,
like, me and QuickBooks that is not how I want to spend my time. I don't trust myself to do it TurboTax. No, like, no, just please no. So that was, I've been really happy with from the start. But then little things like I've had VAs and tech VAs and social media people, and I had PR people, and I've had copywriters and all these different things. And at the end of the day, like I remember I hired a social media team for a whole year, and they were really amazing at what they do. And I definitely was much more consistent in posting social media content for that year, for sure. But what I learned from that was, so they would write me like 16 or 17 posts each month and use photos that I had in some, album, and they would try to write in my voice, and then I would go in and edit it. And
mm,
at the end of the day, I just realized I'm like, I don't want somebody writing my content for me.
mm,
Even if they write it, I'm basically going to rewrite it anyway. So I was like, I think content for me has to be pretty authentic. I might use AI in the future to like give me a template that I can then edit. But it was things like that. I'm like, I don't, and I tried when I tried outsourcing copywriting of newsletters and things, same thing. I did it for a few months and I was like, no, like I want these to be my words. Don't take my words
mm.
from me. Whereas producing my own podcast, for example, I am so thankful that right off the bat, I just hired somebody who it's done for you. I record it and then I just let him know it's done and he does everything else. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm so glad. Because if I was doing it, let's be honest, I probably wouldn't be as consistent. The quality was, it just wouldn't be as good and that kind of stuff. So same thing. I have a tech VA in the Philippines who's amazing. She does all my back ends, my funnels, my graphics and all that stuff. And I'm just like, I could do that, but it probably wouldn't
Yeah.
be as good. And it would take me so long. So I think the biggest learnings have just been hiring the people who are really good at the things that I'm not good at or don't want to do,
Mm,
and the things where I
yeah.
would just rather not spend my time on that.
I get that. I have a podcast producer and I love that I hit record, I end recording, and I send it, and that's it. And it's out of sight, out of mind. It's beautiful. But funny you say about the social media. I just hired this year I've been shifting my team a little bit and I've hired a marketing person to help me with my coaching business. And we just had our kickoff call today. And I was a lot of it, I was like, thank God. Like, because I don't think for me, the difference is I don't really have a strong voice on social media. I do on LinkedIn, not on any of the other platforms. And she's like, oh, I just want to revamp this. I want to do this. And you can come in and look at the copy. And I'm like, go for it, honey. Like, I have been so, like, there have been weeks where I posted a lot and then like weeks that I haven't at all, and it just feels nice. But I resonate with that feeling of just hire someone who really loves to do what they do and does it well. Cause please, that made me feel so good that she was taking charge. And I was like, oh, good. Just give me the tasks, make me the VA. And I'll do all the tasks. I'll film, I'll do whatever you need me to do. Beautiful, beautiful. So what do you think is one of the biggest action items you took to grow your business if you had to distill it down over the years?
I would say the thing that's coming up, I mean, probably so many different things in different ways, but the thing that's coming up is like daring to make the offer in a way, daring to make offers in general. I'm someone who, as you know, kind of a people pleaser and afraid to bother anyone with too much promotion, that type of thing. I've always erred on the side of, assuming they'll come to me if they're interested. But
Mm,
I have forgotten, and I've been trying to teach myself to remember that even if somebody is aware of what you do, and even if they see your newsletters come through however often, and even if they see you on social media, they might not know that you even have space for them. They might not even know what you offer, and they might not know that you are available to them.
mm,
And one of the things I've really seen from people that I look up to is they make offers all the time. Some of them are selling on Instagram every day.
mm,
And if I'm their ideal client, I do not mind. I'm like, tell me everything you have available.
mhm,
Like, tell it to me every day because I want to know what's there. And then when I'm ready, I'll click.
mhm,
And so I think just daring to make the offer and daring to do it in a way that is, it's like if we're selling something that we have a lot of conviction about, also, it feels just really good to share it with people. I think it's when we're our mindset and our conviction and our own confidence and belief isn't there. We're hesitant and we don't want to bother people and all of that. I remember one of my most exciting sales. This was back in 2018. I was doing like 6 months of one-on-one coaching at, a kind of a medium price. And then I had this moment where I was like, what if I offered something really high end, which I'd never offered before? So I put together this package that was a 25K package. And I was like, I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna put it together and then I'm gonna put it out there. But in my mind, I was like, I've never sold anything at this level before. And I assume it'll take me a year of saying it out loud to even get to a place where I have the conviction where I believe I can do it. So I was like, I'm just going to start now so that I can practice so that my confidence can catch up to this thing that I'm offering. And then I offered it to one person who was already a client, who had already worked with me, who loved me, who wanted to continue. And I was
mhm,
like, what if I just offer it to this person as an option? So to that person, I was like, you can continue at the current level, or I also have this new higher level, and it's this. And I wrote it in the email because I couldn't even say the 25K out loud in my voice yet. So I put it in an email. It was like, this person's absolutely going to say no. And then I'm going to pitch it to like 100 more people. And then in a year, someone will say yes. To my great shock and surprise, they were like, oh, I'm interested in that. Tell me more. And I was like, what? Okay. So I shared a little bit more. And then they said yes.
Oh, wow.
And they
That was
signed
so what a
up.
confidence boost.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I had like, I went into full just self-sabotage for a month. I went into the spiral of like, how will I ever provide that much value? It was a whole thing, worked through it, had a great time. At the end of 6 months, I offered it again. They said yes again. So I sold the same 25K package to the same person twice in a year. So that was my first,
Right.
actually, that was my first six-figure year. Many thanks to
Wow,
that one
wow.
person. But it was like the thing that made me even think to offer that was I was like, what if I just put together this thing? And if nobody buys it, that's okay. But it's practice. So it was like that having the courage to offer something that I was really excited about. It was a package that I was like, oh my God, if somebody bought this, I would absolutely love to deliver it. And it's
Mm.
okay if they don't. It doesn't mean anything if they don't. So it was a huge confidence boost, but I wouldn't have experienced that at all had I not had the courage to just even put it out there.
So I do kind of want to dive in a little bit into the mindset issues that you said you had to work through. You had to yourself work through it. And I think a lot of women struggle with that mindset when they run a business. Especially, you're thinking of new offers, you're like, oh, but who would really actually be interested in that, right? But break it down for us a little bit, how to move past those stumbling blocks you might have as an entrepreneur.
Man, I think the mindset work is and mindset work meaning I was just talking to a client about mindset stuff yesterday and she was like, but how do you actually do that work? It was like many ways. I think the mindset work, however we define that, whether it's, just working through things in your own mind or journaling or talking it through with a coach or reading all these things or to me, it's anything that helps us get our mind and our body on board with the level of self-belief that we're aiming for. So it's like if I could go back and counsel my younger entrepreneur self on anything, I would be like, start that work right away
Mm.
and do it daily until you get to a point where your self-belief is so rock solid that you are like more or less delusional about who you are and the value you offer and what you want and the fact that your success is inevitable. Because man, if I could graph, if I could track on a graph my like success in terms of revenue and my mindset over the last 12 years, I'm pretty sure that the up and down roller coaster of the revenue would almost exactly match where my mindset was at the time.
Mm.
It's been so bananas to look back and look at that. The times that I've had higher revenue, it has been very closely matched to my self-belief.
So let's talk a bit along the lines of your client. How do you do that work? How do you, without giving away all your secrets, obviously, people have to sign up to work with you. But how do you do that? Because I know for me, like these past few days, doing that visualization has been super helpful. And not only in getting things done, but also building confidence. But that's such a sometimes I think maybe a small piece of the puzzle, or maybe there's more you can do. What would you recommend to women? Let's just say three, because everyone loves the number three. Three ways to change your mindset and build confidence.
So I guess my like disclaimer before mentioning three favorites is that I think each of us gets to and needs to find what works for us. I don't think there's any one formula like this is the way. And I think anyone who
Mm.
tells you this is the way, um, I
Are
would say just
probably Star Wars fans.
Mandalorian, exactly. Or like my way is the only way. I would
Right.
say proceed with caution. You know, I would say there are so many ways in each of us. It takes some experimentation to find what resonates. You know, I think we're each
Mm.
wired differently, and we're each we certainly come from so much different conditioning and trauma and backgrounds. And one person may have very little interference between the idea of where they are and where they're going, and they just have no reason to believe that they wouldn't be successful. So for them to get on board with that is like it can happen with one affirmation. It can happen with one day of just deciding that you believe it and then boom, right? Whereas somebody else who maybe has a ton of decades of trauma that's related to something that is creating interference or
Mm.
blockages between that leap and belief, it's going to take them a very different set of tools and perhaps longer and deeper work to get there. So I would just say, like, yeah, keeping in mind that we're all different and it's about finding what works for you. For me personally, some of my favorite things have been so I do really well when I'm inspired. And so I've found that a great way for me to do quote unquote mindset work or embodiment work is to like flood my brain with pretty steady inspiration. I call it positivity brainwashing. And I don't mean positivity in like a toxic positivity or spiritual bypassing or like good vibes only. Cause I'm like, no, we got to do the trauma work and the shadow work and all of that too. I just mean we're constantly bombarded by negative scarcity, fear-based
Hmm.
messaging from the media, from social media, from our friends, from our family, whining, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just like, let's just tip the balances and counteract it with whatever is helpful to you. For me, I'm a manifestation junkie, so I tend to listen to a lot of manifestation books and podcasts, watch videos, take courses, that kind of stuff. So I flood my brain with that as much as possible, which keeps me really inspired. And when I'm inspired, my mindset's basically in the right place. I
Mm.
would say tool number two would probably be some shape or form of journaling. I think journaling can look very different for each of us, but basically having a conversation with yourself, whether it be writing it out or, you know, do it in your mind if you can actually keep track and focus for long enough. But it's just, to me, the journaling or the mindset work could be around just changing the story, you know, having an
Mm.
awareness of what are you making things mean? Something happens and we assign all these values to it. So it's like noticing what is the story I'm telling myself about this thing? What am I making it mean? What's the narrative? Is that helpful? Do I like it? You know, we're all making everything up all the time anyway, so we may as well make it into something that's helpful. So then I'm like, how do I
Mm.
change the story? How do I reframe this so that it is like main character energy? So it puts me in a place of growth and success so that it's more helpful, more healthy, more empowering.
Mm.
And then I would say tool number three is I want to say embodiment as the general category because I think it's really easy for mindset work to just get stuck in our brain and be from like in just in a very like intellectual place. But we got to get our bodies on board too. We got to regulate our nervous systems. We got to have our bodies feel safe while we're expanding to the next level. And I think embodiment work could look like breath work and dancing
Mm.
and all, you know, Reiki and all sorts of different things. For me, the simplest hack, the simplest shortcut is just embodying the basically physicality of the person I'm trying to be.
Mm,
So like if I could go back and tell day one Sandra entrepreneur, I would be like, walk and carry yourself the way the whatever your goal is. So let's call it like, you know, 7-figure CEO boss bitch lady. Embody that day one and just do it as much as possible.
mm,
Which for me is
mm,
usually simple things like how I stand. I usually stand a little taller, my shoulders are down and back. You know, the
mhm,
look on my face is the look of somebody who has the level of success that I'm aiming for. How does she talk? How does she think? How does she breathe? For me, she moves, she walks a little bit more slowly than my
mhm,
natural gait. You know, she's
mm,
not in a hurry. She's not under pressure. She's not rushed. She's not anxious. She's just so confident and so happy and like so chill. So it's just
mm.
embody that energetically.
I love that last one. That one would work really well for me with my imagination. And I think that's kind of like almost like the next step of what I'm doing anyway. Cause it's like if I'm doing the visualization in the morning and being like, this is what I see and what I want to happen. And then the embodiment is kind of just like the next step. Like we're going to bring that into our everyday life. And I wish I could remember this book. I almost don't want to mention it, but there was a book I read by his coach. If I really wanted to go back, I could find it. But she's a pretty big coach, and she had this exercises in the book that was all about like I had to lay out like how long my hair was, the outfit I was wearing, where I wanted this like to feel like I was located. So I was like, I made myself at a beach house with a specific dress with my hair long. It was like, and that was a person that you're always looking towards to. And like there was stuff in there like how would you respond if you're in this visualization or like this embodiment and then someone says this, how does that version of you respond? And it was the most fascinating. I don't usually do like the exercises in books. I kind of just skim them for the information, but this one I did and I was like, it's always stuck with me and it's been 3 years. And so that's very similar to what you're saying. I like that. So briefly, I want to talk about having this business for so many years. What do you think has been the best investment you've made with your business money in keeping within the business sphere, not personally? Because some people answer me like, oh, I bought this real estate thing. And I'm like, no, no, no. With your business, reinvesting in your business, what do you think has been the best investment?
The one, oh man, and invest my biggest investments have always been with coaches and masterminds
Mhm.
and mentors and things. And I look at each of them with great gratitude for so many different things. But honestly, I think the first, and I'm, you know, invested in software and contractors and all of that too. I would say the right team members at the right time is probably number two.
Mm,
Um, the first biggest investment for me was basically the first big personal development investment I made, which was actually, it was right before I launched my business, but it was the thing that helped me do it. So it was the coach training school I went to offered a leadership program, and I kind of heard about it. And then one of the leaders of it kind of pulled me aside and was like, I want you, you need to do this. And I barely understood what it was, but it was the first time I felt like a full body yes to something
mm,
where I kind of had I'm sure I had in the past, but that was the first time that I was like, what is happening right now? And it, you know, and I was aware of it. And I was like, this thing that's happening in my body, let's call it intuition, is telling me I need to do this thing. I can't even really justify why I need it. I don't even really know what it is, but I was like, but I have to do it. But it was $14,000. And I was very much living paycheck to paycheck, month to month in San Francisco, working as a personal trainer. And I was like, I can't afford that. But
mm,
then this thing in my body that was like, you have to do this, I was like, okay. And so it was the first time where I said yes to something that I couldn't afford, was scared out of my mind, did it anyway, and then figured it out. Like I got on the
mm,
phone with the program director and I was like, tell me how many months I can spread this payment out across over. And she gave me the number, and then I figured out exactly what I had to pay each month. And then I cut expenses everywhere that I could, and then just like figured out the rest. Got side gigs, did side hustles, did whatever I could. And that program, which was a 10-month program, completely changed my life. I got what I came for. I came out more confident with so much more clarity. And at the tail end of that program, that's when I finally had the courage to launch my coaching business. And the rest is history. So it was that first like, oh, this is what it feels like to listen to an intuitive urge that scares the bejesus out of me, but that I trust, and I'm going to do
mm,
it. And I'm going to trust
mm.
myself to figure it out. And then I became the person that I needed to be as a result of making that leap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've definitely had that before. And it's funny when I've interviewed quite a few women at this point, and a lot of them say like it's worth it to spend that little bit extra more when your body is saying yes. When you're like, this is a good decision, do it because it's going to pay off so much in the long run. And I've tried to implement that at times. I love that. Do you have any investments that you feel like you made that you just look back and you're like, why did I do that? That was such a bad idea.
I mean, if I sat down and wrote down every business investment I've made, I'm sure I could probably circle like half of them, whether they were, little programs or little courses or some of the bigger investments or mentors. But I think I've really made it a practice to not look back on any of that with regret, but just look back on each one as like, but what did I learn? Maybe I didn't
Mm.
get what I thought I would get out of it, but instead of blaming the person or blaming the program, I look at what did I get out of it? And maybe what I got out of it was like, I need to um, choose better, or I need to,
Mm.
or here's what I don't like about a program, which can help inform me when I design my own programs later. But more than anything, I like to look at things like how did I not show up to take advantage of that container and get what I could have gotten out of it. So I see every investment. If there wasn't any sort of like obvious monetary ROI, I look at every investment as what did I learn from it as a person and how did that help me grow and how can that inform my decisions in the future?
So on that note, then, if you're not looking at anything as like a mistake, what do you think over the course of growing your business, what was the biggest learning moment for you?
Hard to pinpoint any one moment, but I would say there have been many moments that collectively, I would say I've always come back to, I've got to be true to myself. It's so tempting and so seductive when you look at, especially all the people on the internet doing things that you want to be doing. You think, oh, they're doing this, therefore that must be the strategy. That
Mm.
must be the thing that's gonna, or I got to do it their way. I got to try this one thing or marketing tactic or whatever it is. And while I've loved experimenting, trying different things and going in different directions or, pivoting or changing my niche a million times or redoing my messaging and all of that, at the end of the day, I've always come back home to what feels the most authentic. And so it's like I've learned over and over. I have like, you do you, boo. Like it's that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
messaging. I'm just like, oh, it comes back to the old, like, be true to yourself thing, which is what my whole business has always been about
Yeah.
anyway. And what I kind of keep relearning. And then it's like the more I can just strip away all of the shoulds and have as much fun as possible and be as me as possible and as unapologetically and especially vulnerably and especially the things that I'm afraid people might judge me for, those are the ones I want to lean into even more. It's like the more I do that, the more things flow with more ease and more fun.
I feel like a lot of the theme of our conversation has been around being authentic and ignoring the shoulds almost. The like or not
Yeah.
don't pay attention to all the shoulds that you should be doing,
Stop
as
shitting
people
all over
say.
yourself, as they
Stop
say.
shitting.
Yeah.
Ha!
Yes.
I've actually never heard that. I
Ah,
like that.
nice. I would just assume everyone's heard that a million times.
No,
So I'm like, ha
I
ha.
haven't.
But it's a good one if you haven't heard it.
I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. What advice do you have for women as they grow their own business? And aside from being authentic, maybe something more tactical, why do you think some women struggle with growing their business or just fail? And what advice do you have for them?
Get out of your head and get into action.
Mm.
I think a lot of us, especially if we are perfectionists or we're people pleasers or we're afraid of bothering people or we overthink things. I'm all naming all things that apply to myself and most of the people I've worked with, right? So we spend so much time in our head overthinking things and analyzing things and wondering, if somebody gonna be mad at me if I do this, or am I gonna look like an idiot? And kind of comes back to the like imperfect action is better than perfect inaction type of thing. If we
Hmm.
could just get out of our heads and just take more action more of the time, even if it's the tiniest baby steps, and just like fail, 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 then we move much faster. And then we get the clarity that we're seeking by sitting around and overthinking things anyway, by just trying. It's like
Hmm.
if I could spend, instead of 80% of the time thinking about things and 20% acting and flip flop that and do 80%, just start walking, take action, whatever that looks like. It could be posting on social media, it could be sending the newsletter, it could be meeting the person, it could be making the offer, it could be whatever the tactic is. Again, I think the tactics really depend on what's integrity for you, what's authentic to you, and what do you actually like doing. Like
Mhm.
Facebook ads work, growing your email list and making offers every day work. All the things work if you do them consistently, but do you actually like doing them?
Mm.
And so it's like, go take action, find the things that you like doing that feel right for you, that are authentic to you, and just do them a lot. Be consistent, take action.
Can you share with us one of your favorite success stories of a client you've worked with?
Hmm, let's see. One of my favorite success stories was a client who was very successful already, a very successful engineer, had kind of climbed the corporate ladder as an engineer, golden handcuffs, all of that, in with the big companies, partially vested. So it was like a just keep staying and keep doing this thing, and you'll be
Mm.
quote unquote successful the way somebody here in Silicon Valley and San Francisco and the tech world is supposed to be, again with the shoulds.
Mhm.
And this person was like, and they left despite all the like basically walking away from, I think it was like a 7-figure something that they left on the table because it just didn't feel right. And instead, they took the risk and they wrote a book and they launched their own company. And then they ultimately moved out of the tech world completely and moved into the coaching world, and then
Oh,
launched
wow.
first it was like a tech startup for like helping engineers with some stuff. And then they launched another company that was much more about relationships. And
Oh,
then
wow.
they traveled the world, and then they left a 17-year relationship and marriage, and then found somebody who, it's just like a series of massive changes that would have been terrifying for most people. And most people wouldn't have made even one of the changes because it goes so against what you're supposed to do, especially as a immigrant culture. I work with a lot of immigrants. I'm an immigrant too.
Mm.
And, it's like the immigrant narrative is you go to a good school, you get a good job, you make your parents proud, you impress your parents' friends,
Mm.
you save for retirement, you do all the things you're supposed to do, and you do it in the right order and all of that. And this person just broke all of those rules and did things authentically and followed their heart, left the relationship, found a new one that was way more aligned and all these things. And I still watch them now, like little by little over the months, and they just like keep crushing it and doing new cool
Amazing.
things, equally successful as they were before, probably more so, but so much more alive
Yeah. And
and aligned
authentic.
and authentic.
Authentic. Authentic. Where are you an immigrant from? I think I saw in my research that you was it Sweden and you went to Italy for a bit. There's a few things in there that I thought was really interesting.
Sweden, yeah. My mom is from Denmark. My dad's from Sweden. I was born in Sweden, and I moved to LA when I was 5. And
Okay.
then, so I've always gone back and forth and back and forth.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So here's a moment. Where can we find you, your website, any social media handles you want to share? If our audience has any questions, how can they connect with you?
So I am, as far as I know, the only one of me in the world. So the only one with my name. So literally just Google my name, Sandra Possing, Sandra with an A, Possing with an O, and you will find everything. All my handles are at Sandra Possing. Website is sandrapossing.com. My podcast is called Oh Hi Self. You can listen to me there.
Oh, great.
And I'm on basically all the platforms as Sandra Possing.
Oh, hi, self. Like,
Oh Hi
oh,
Self.
hi,
Oh,
like,
comma.
hello.
Yep. Like I'm
Okay. Okay.
introducing you back home to yourself,
Okay.
basically.
Okay. I
Yeah.
like it. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. What is one philosophy, mantra, or quote you try to run your business by?
The more fun you have, the more money you'll make.
Hmm. What? Someone just. Oh no, not quite. Okay, I was like, someone just said something similar, but it was do what you love, and the money will follow. I think it was a guest recently, but the more fun you have, the more money you
Yeah.
make. I like
Yeah.
that. I know.
Yeah.
I think it's so much fun. I was part of a uh business partnership few years back, and the CEO was always like, I was always like, let's just have fun. Let's just see what happens. Let's just life is fun. Business is fun. She just could not. She did not like that advice ever. And she was like, I know, but I'm responsible for like all these people. And like, I was just like, okay, but it's also could be really fun if we just relax a little bit and see where it takes us. Anyway, non sequitur, neither here nor there. Thank you so much for joining me on this interview, Sandra. I really, really appreciate it. And if you're part of our audience and listening to the show, and you've also found Sandra's interview and discussion interesting, please share the show you will help us grow it. So thank you so much. And you can find me, Kiri Mohan, on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active, or Instagram at the Kiri Mohan. So Sandra, again, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a blast.